Thanks to Donkey Kong Bonanza for the Switch 2, a whole new audience of gamers is being introduced to Donkey Kong. But did you know that Donkey Kong has been around for almost 50 years? Longer than any other Nintendo franchise, even heavy hitters like Mario and Zelda? In this video, I'm going to show you every single Donkey Kong game that's ever been made, and what made them special. Let's jump right in. The first game Donkey Kong appears in is the Donkey Kong arcade game, which is also Mario's first appearance. This game sets up Donkey Kong, Pauline, and Mario, and introduces platforming for the first time. Donkey Kong Jr. is the sequel to Donkey Kong. In this one, Mario has put Donkey Kong in a cage, and Donkey Kong's son, Jr., must rescue him. The Donkey Kong arcade game was also released for the Game & Watch, Nintendo's portable line of handheld consoles. It was one of the best-selling ones, and the first use of the D-pad, ever. Donkey Kong Jr. was also released for the Game & Watch, including a very rare see-through screen model. Donkey Kong 3 is the third Donkey Kong game, and Mario does not appear in this one. This one's kind of weird. You play as a gardener named Stanley, who shoots Donkey Kong with bug spray to get him away from his garden. It's kind of weird, did not sell very well, but it's still pretty cool. Donkey Kong 2 is a direct sequel to the first Game & Watch Donkey Kong, and it's based kind of on Donkey Kong Jr. It uses another multi-screen design, and it's pretty rare to see nowadays. Donkey Kong Country was the biggest hit in the Donkey Kong series. You'll notice this was almost a decade after the last Donkey Kong arcade game. This game brought Donkey Kong back, and did very well, making him popular again. Donkey Kong Country revolutionized graphics thanks to pre-rendered 3D sprites. It was also the first game with Donkey Kong's sidekick, Diddy Kong. Donkey Kong was also released for the Game Boy, with tons of extra levels. It also introduced moves Mario started to use in Mario 64, such as the backflip and handstand jump. Donkey Kong Country 2 stars Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong. The soundtrack of this game is considered one of the best in gaming history. This game set up a ton of the enemies and bosses for future Donkey Kong games going forward. Donkey Kong Land was a portable follow-up to the first Donkey Kong Country, developed for the Game Boy. It used simplified graphics to fit the Game Boy's screen, and it features unique levels that weren't in the SNES release. Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, has the hardest title of any video game to say ever, and took me several takes to get it right. This game features a non-linear world map and several new platforming methods. Donkey Kong Land 2 is based on Donkey Kong Country 2, although it's not the same game. It's pretty hard to see because of the monochrome visuals, and many levels are adapted from the SNES game. Donkey Kong Land 3 was the third of the Donkey Kong Land games, and was one of the last first-party Game Boy titles. It was later re-released on the Game Boy Color, and that's what this screenshot is of. It's less well-known due to its late release. Diddy Kong Racing is the first Donkey Kong game on the Nintendo 64. You can race in a kart, a hovercraft, or a plane. It also introduced Banjo and Conker before their own separate games. It also has an adventure mode, which not a lot of Nintendo racing games have. Donkey Kong 64 was the first fully 3D Donkey Kong platformer. There wouldn't be another one for 26 years. It required the N64's RAM expansion pack to run, and you can play as 5 different Kongs. Mario vs. Donkey Kong mixes platforming and puzzles. You play as Mario, trying to save toys from Donkey Kong, who stole them. It has cutscenes and 96 levels. Donkey Konga is a rhythm game, similar to things like Guitar Hero, except it uses bongo controllers. It was developed by Namco, and it features Nintendo songs and pop songs. It sold surprisingly well in Japan, so much so that they made a sequel, Donkey Konga 2. This one added more songs than the first game, and is actually one of the rare Nintendo games to receive a teen rating due to lyrics. It still uses the same controller and has competitive and co-op modes. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat is a platformer that's played with the bongos controller. This is pretty weird. I think this would be fun to try, don't you? DK King of Swing took advantage of the Game Boy Advance's shoulder buttons to let you use them to swing and climb. It has a cartoonish art style and unique controls, unlike any other game. Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 is a sequel to the original Mario vs. Donkey Kong game. It's the first Mario game to not use buttons to platform. Instead, it uses stylus controls. There were actually technically 4 more Mario vs. Donkey Kong games after this, but I didn't include them because that would have been way too many, and I don't think you guys want to hear about all 6 of them. DK Jungle Climber is a sequel to Donkey Kong King of Swing, and the first Donkey Kong game on the DS. It used both DS screens to make really tall levels, and it features Diddy Kong as a companion. Donkey Kong Barrel Blast is a racing game for the Wii. It was originally planned for the GameCube and the bongo controllers, and you can kind of see them on the cover, but they determined they had used the bongos in way too many games already, so this game was controlled by shaking the Wii Remote and nunchuck, and it's kind of the only game where you can do that. Donkey Kong Country Returned is the first Donkey Kong Country game since 1996. You used motion controls for rolling and ground pounds, and it was known for being pretty tough. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was a sequel to Donkey Kong Country on the Wii U. You can also play as Dixie and Cranky Kong. This game was also redeveloped for the Switch later. Mario vs. Donkey Kong is a redevelopment of the original Mario vs. Donkey Kong game, this one for the Nintendo Switch. It adds HD graphics and animations, as well as full co-op multiplayer. And now, the big one. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a fully 3D platforming game developed for the Switch 2. It's the first huge Switch 2 game, and it actually got a 10 out of 10 from IGN. Pretty big for a Donkey Kong game. The worlds are fully destructible. You can destroy anything, pick up dirt and rocks, and surf on them. It kind of invented its own genre, and I'm going to call it the destructible platforming genre. It also establishes DK and Pauline's relationship. Pauline is 13 years old in the game, so I guess that would put it at the beginning of the Donkey Kong timeline. But I guess we'll see. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed learning about Donkey Kong. Subscribe to Wolf Byte for more mini documentaries about video games and tech history. You'll like the video on the bottom. YouTube recommends it for you. Have a great day!